As a child, we all long for a hero. As a society as a whole, we search for that leader that can be our hero. But as we mature and as we grow, it dawned on us that the hero is inside every one of us. And in the world's social media, we all start at zero. And slowly we search deep within ourselves to find who we are. And we have that moment of truth where we embrace that the hero that we've been searching for has been there all along. It is living deep inside of every one of us. And we start embracing that journey and we become that hero that we search for.
Hey everybody, good morning and welcome to episode 56 of Zero to Hero. We've got another great guest, a local guy coming at you today. His name is Chase Miller. He is the owner and physical therapist at Adjuvant Physical Therapy. So let's bring him in. Chase, how you doing today, bud?
I'm good. How are you, Gino?
Oh man, no complaints at all. So tell everybody a little bit about what you guys are doing over there at Adjuvant, what they can expect when they walk in the door there.
Absolutely. So, Adjuvant Physical Therapy was kind of like a brainchild I had about 2 years ago. And I'm a physical therapist by profession, former educator. And I wanted to give people an outpatient experience that kind of takes us back to a time in healthcare where we focus more on quality of service and less on volume and expectation of get in and get out, kind of like a herd of cattle. So the goal of mine was to develop an office that initially was just going to be myself, and I'm currently searching for that second therapist to come to team up with me. But to have a one-on-one experience in a setting that allows for a lot of technology, current evidence-based practice, and just to give people an experience, a rehab experience that's kind of second to none. And you'll find that a lot of there's very few privately owned outpatient clinics, here in the metro as well as across the country. It's just gotten so hard to really kind of navigate the insurance model of healthcare that we have. Most people don't understand it. Even as a clinician, it's like always evolving. There's so many different plans, different policies to look through. And most of us don't really dive into real depth of what our policies actually cover. And so oftentimes people are, taken back or surprised by what their insurance did or didn't cover. And so I wanted to kind of streamline that process here at the office, so that people don't have any question in their mind when they come in to see me, what their expected costs are, what their expected outcomes will be. So just to kind of give an all-around individualized experience that has been lacking in the last few decades, just with the overwhelming surplus in insurance-regulated healthcare. And that's kind of the biggest goal, is to give more of a small town feel, and that's kind of what I'm trying to offer here. Most people, when they come in, they'll see we have a small waiting room. As we bring you back, we have a large 2,000 square feet right now, and it's an office right off I-70 here in eastern Jackson County. And pretty good location in terms of ease of travel. You can usually get up north, down south, into the city within 20 minutes. I usually tell people it's about 20-minute drive from wherever they are on this side of the state line. So yeah, that's just, it's kind of been it's been kind of a whirlwind of stuff over the last couple of years, from business plan development, lease agreements, all of the business side of stuff that as a clinician we don't always get taught in school, the business aspect of it. So that's kind of where my development has come in the last year, is just more of the business understanding, and kind of those different aspects that we have to focus a little bit on, even though we don't want to be too heavily minded in business. So.
Yeah, I love a couple of the things that you said there. One of them being the quality over quantity, right? And I think the insurance is part of what breeds that, right? Is
Sure.
Get them in, get them out. Get your check from the insurance company. And I dabbled a little bit professionally in insurance another life ago, right? But so I get it, right? And it is complicated. It's complicated for people that are selling insurance to sell it. So I can't imagine,
Absolutely.
as on the doctor's side, trying to understand all that, keep a practice open, and then still give that quality one-on-one care that we used to
Exactly.
have probably back in the
Exactly.
90s or before that.
Yeah, even before us. Yeah, I mean, it's really evolved to such a way that you have somebody behind a excuse me, you have somebody behind a desk that's really kind of judging whether or not that person can get that service that their doctor recommended. And so now we're saying that the insurance has this much power over what your doctor prescribed you, or what that therapist felt would be the best beneficial plan of care for that person, which kind of contradicts our whole ethical model in healthcare, that we do no harm. We want to make sure that we aren't causing harm to people by not providing them the services that they need.
Right. Right. Yeah, and it's I can imagine the balancing act that you're dealing with that of, hey, you've got to make a living, right? You've got to be able to open the door at Adjuvant, otherwise you're not helping anybody, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You have overhead, you have rent, utilities, stuff that continues to increase, because those people want to make their money, and they have their own costs that continue to increase as well. So we have to evolve with those times. And one thing that doesn't evolve with those times is insurance reimbursement, as a matter of fact, because continually Medicare wants to cut reimbursement for outpatient rehab services. You have other insurances that contract therapists at a flat rate, and those flat rates are very minimally negotiable, if not negotiable at all. And so whenever you try to renegotiate, they can say no, and then it's your choice whether you want to stay in network with that insurance, or if you want to go out of network with that insurance. And I've already made those decisions, even within my first year here, of what insurances have I contracted with that are not allowing me to meet my minimal point that I feel comfortable with financially, and how much work is that going to go get involved to get reimbursed from that insurance company. Because a lot of times these insurance companies try to fight tooth and nail to not reimburse the provider. And there's a number of insurance companies, I won't say the name, but that are under their own investigation, under their own litigation for underpaying or not paying providers for their services. And
Wow.
I think if the more people know about those things, the more they investigate other options when it comes to their healthcare. And you see a lot of outpatient practices moving towards a concierge model, or a private pay. I'm not going to deal with your insurance. If you want to get reimbursed from your insurance company, then here's a bill. You can submit it to your insurance for reimbursement, and then it's out of the provider's hands. And there's a lot of providers that are moving towards that, a lot of specialists that are moving towards that, because really to understand what their AR is every year, we don't know. It's a constant guessing game of, am I going to get reimbursed for those visits? So you may not see a payment for 3-6 months up to a year, because they have their own quote unquote what's it called? It's like a grace period of how long you can file. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but some of them are up to 12 months. That means, okay, well, we have 12 months to pay you. We're just
Wow.
we're gonna draw that out. And so if you don't have a billing team or a billing person that's really on top of it, contacting the insurance and on your behalf, then you could be waiting as long as they want you to wait.
Wow. So that's almost a full-time position that you have to employ just to deal with.
Exactly, and that's new. I outsourced a lot of my billing to an external company, who also happens to do my electronic medical record system, and that's their job, is to submit claims and recheck and follow up with claims on a regular basis. Some people do it monthly. They really should be doing it weekly, but it's just the more you have to pester them to be able to get the money for your services. But and I tell people all the time that we don't get in trouble for pestering them, or we get not reimbursed for services. But if you don't pay your premium, the insurance isn't going to like that. So insurance can say, I want to pay for, you had 10 visits, I'll pay for 6 of them, then I'll decline the rest of them, with no explanation why, no valid explanation why. But if you were to say, I don't want to pay my premium for 6 months, and I still want you to cover me, they'd be like, no, you're out. We're done.
Right.
We're done covering you. So it's very much geared towards the benefit of the insurance company. There's very little benefit to the patient and to the provider in terms of coverage and reimbursement. And that's kind of the system right now that a lot of outpatient clinics are fighting. And that's one reason that I've tried to stay true to myself in terms of length of visits. Most of my initial evaluations are at least an hour long, if not as much time as that person needs. I usually schedule an hour and a half as needed. And then my subsequent visits are all an hour long. So I schedule on the hour. And what that does, that affords me the time with that person to not be on my computer doing documentation during a visit. That affords me time to check and cue patients on exercises that they may be doing incorrectly. If my nose is down in my computer, I'm not paying attention to the technique that they're performing. And if I'm looking away at somebody else because I have 3 other people in the same space and I'm trying to work with 2 other people at the same time, which a lot of clinics do have to do that because they have now a financial incentive to meet their bottom line or to meet their green level of performance financially. So they have to see more people. So I draw the line of I'm only seeing people on the hour, and I've found a lot of good success in that internally, and then I'm also able to keep the doors open. So I think we need to realize that we don't have to be greedy, and the system of healthcare was never meant to incorporate greed into the picture. We can be financially stable and not be greedy. And I think more physicians and more therapists are seeing that and going into more of a concierge model. So my ultimate goal, that's my ultimate goal, is to kind of cut away, or I should say trim the fat, so to speak, on terms of the insurances that I do want to stay in network with, the ones that I feel are providing fair reimbursement practices to their providers, and kind of ditch the ones that are not affording me that right or that availability to stay afloat. So
Absolutely. Yeah, and I love that, man. I mean, it's it's worth the 20-minute drive, to get out of the city to go see somebody that's gonna, actually care about you, give you that one-on-one attention, versus just being another number in the cog there at a lot of these bigger physical therapy places. So I definitely appreciate that, man, for sure.
Yeah, it's something big that's kind of on the horizon. The profession of physical therapy has been fighting for direct access, which all that means is that you don't have to get a referral from your physician to seek physical therapy care. And it's something that the American Physicians Association has fought at our state level for years and years. And this year we finally got passed through the House and Senate, Senate Bill 55, SB 55, that allows for a form of direct access. And that allows us within our Practice Act to be able to see people without referral, address their concerns, immediately. So if you have a hip pain, knee pain, shoulder pain, come in off the street, we do a full physical assessment, orthopedic physical assessment, or whatever the impairment might be. We can see you and treat you for up to a month, or a certain number of visits before the need for a referral back to the doctor is necessary. And so for a lot of people, they may get complete relief in those symptoms within 3 to 4 weeks. And that's kind of a huge game changer for us right now, is not relying on that referral from the physician, because we are trained doctors of physical therapy to diagnose physical impairment, mobility deficits, and those kind of things without some of that extra oversight in terms of have to wait on a referral, have to wait on a doctor's visit to be able to get that next step in place. Because a lot of times you go to a specialist, they're not always going to run to having surgery. They're going to want you to try some physical therapy, whether that's them choosing that or the insurance dictating that they have to have some sort of conservative treatment before having surgery. And so then this kind of skips that step of having to wait weeks and weeks and weeks to get into that specialist. You can get your concerns addressed. By the time you get to that physician, you've already had conservative management. If things are not improving, you're going to see that doctor anyway. And at least we can say we've tried X, Y, and Z with not much improvement. And that gives us better indicator for them to have a procedure or whatever that case may be. And 2, we satisfy the insurance's requirements of having further conservative management. And so that's kind of the next steps for physical therapy. We don't know what the effective date on that is going to be, how soon that's going to get put into practice. And so, but that's kind of going to be a big business game changer too, because for the longest time, a lot of therapist clinics have been advertising and marketing to physicians' offices. And nobody hates it more. I mean, I have it at my office too. When a vendor comes in and says, here, check me out, send your patients to me. And, you can, from yourself, you can do X, Y, and Z to explain to them why you're better than the next person. But it's really not the physician's call ultimately. It's the patient's call. And so that patient's going to go where they feel like they've are trusted, that their voice is heard, that they can get quality care. And so if the doctor says, I want you to go here, the patient can say, no, I don't want to go there. I want to go here. So it's really ultimately, we need to be more marketing direct to consumer, which is something that a lot of clinics just haven't done in a long time. And
yeah, and that's not specific to your industry, really. I mean, the medical field as a whole, so at J29, we work with, a few dentists within our network, and we kind of see the same things that you're talking about, where it's, the business side isn't really taught in school, and the insurance is something that they're having to deal with, and where they market is kind of changing, right? And how they market is kind of changing from, going from a name, right? So Miller Dentistry to, an actual brand, where people are getting to know it. So, I mean, it sounds like you're way ahead of the game with that. Obviously the practice is not called Miller Physical Therapy, right? You've got a good brand behind that, you're dealing with it, and you're giving the people the one-on-one attention that they really need, and that they crave, especially in this post-pandemic world, right? Where we want that human connection even more than we did before when we had it all the time. So
absolutely.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, and you'll see during COVID, there was a big shift to a lot of telehealth and telemedicine, and so a lot of therapists did go and get certified in telehealth to be able to provide that service digitally. Well, there's that lack of human connection, like you said. I mean, it's just completely different experience from what I'm able to provide in someone's home. Yes, there's some convenience there, some security being within your home, but there's just a lack of tools. There's a lack of that process of me being able to touch, feel, give some hands-on cues that's going to make that person excel a little bit better. I can do so much with demonstration and verbal feedback, but having that kinesthetic opportunity to engage the person is something that most people, not saying most, but there's a lot of folks that crave that. I have to feel it and do it to understand that I'm doing it correctly. And so the push for telehealth was kind of a big craze during COVID, but I think we're shifting back to that, like you said, that people really want that social interaction. And here at my office, masks have been optional. And I think I'm more than accommodating to anybody that comes in the door that, if they ask me to wear a mask, I have masks in here. I will mask up. We've taken extra steps in the office to help mitigate. I have 2 whole room air filtration systems. We sanitize the office between patients. So on the hour, every hour, when we see people, we're sanitizing all the equipment. And then once a week, I have a electrostatic cleaning unit, which basically is like a big it's a cool looking gun thing. And there's sanitizer that goes into it, and it sprays it with like an electrostatic clean to like everything that it touches. So there's a deep cleaning once a week, as well as daily cleaning regimens that go into place. And then the office is cleaned by my front of office staff twice a week, including, the regular kind of necessities, dusting, vacuuming, and that kind of stuff. So we keep a pretty tight, clean office here. And I think people feel safe knowing that they're given that one-to-one experience. They're not sharing the same space with another client, another body, and limiting that kind of extra interaction, especially my background being in cancer rehab. Those folks, very immunocompromised, have more safety and security in that. And so that's, and I can go into like my background at a different time if you don't want to go through that. But my office here is, we try to gear it towards the general population. I don't think it's meant to be a niche practice, although I tell myself that I'm a generalist, but I have really profound passions for certain things. I'm also a certified lymphedema therapist, which is basically the treatment of swelling in various extremities and trunk related to impaired lymphatics. And then I also have a passion for cancer rehab, which was founded in my early part of my career, working primarily with KU oncology, the KU oncologists at North Kansas City. So yeah, there was a big passion for that, and that's actually kind of ties to the name Adjuvant. Adjuvant has Latin origin, and it means helping towards. And I believe if people go to if you just Google the word, I'll just Google it real quick. Let me pull it up here. Serving to aid or contribute, enhancing the effectiveness of medical treatment. And so that Merriam-Webster definition, I think, does the name justice. That physical therapy is here to help aid a person towards their goals, towards an end result, as well as enhancing the effectiveness of the medical care they're receiving. So yes, we're going to have our total knee replacement. We're going to enhance the effectiveness of that outcome by having physical therapy afterwards. So I think the name itself, it's a great foundation for what rehab is in total. And in the cancer world, adjuvant is also referred to as neoadjuvant, or often chemotherapy is a good example. Chemotherapies are also termed neoadjuvants, meaning that that's their additional treatments for cancer, or neoplasms, so neoadjuvants. So I always thought that physical therapy was like a very, very underutilized service within the oncology community, and this was going back 8, 9, 10 years ago. So that was kind of where my career kind of started, and through various different turnarounds with jobs here and there, I worked in outpatient hospital systems, inpatient hospital systems, home health systems, and all of those things, I think, afforded me the ability to see kind of that transition from each phase of rehabilitation in different types of patient populations. So it kind of gives you a little more rounded wealth of knowledge. And that was kind of my goal to bring to this office, was more of a well-rounded knowledge. We are a lot fewer and far between in physical therapists that feel comfortable working with a large variety of patient populations. And that was kind of the goal, is to bring that generalist mindset to this part of our metro. So
that's awesome, man. That's good stuff. And I love that that you're keeping it clean. That's one of the, as many bad things as came from COVID, the cleanliness in the world is definitely one of those bonuses that we saw there. So, well, let's get into the meat of it here, Chase. So not Adjuvant, okay, and not really Chase the physical therapist, but who is Chase Miller? So give us the elevator pitch about you.
Professionally or personally?
Personally, yeah.
Personally.
Personal
So,
side.
Gosh, how far back do you want me to go?
Oh man, as far back as
you
want.
pitch.
Yeah.
Okay,
Who are you?
So I was born in Des Moines, Iowa. Raised in well, not raised. I grew up in a small town in central Iowa, in Osceola, and so a lot of kind of a farm kid. Family moved down to Kansas City area when I was in elementary school, and so I kind of flexed back and forth between farm life. So I'd spend all my breaks and summers on the farm, and then come back to school here in Kansas City. So I like to say I got kind of a good experience and dynamic in both experiences, city and country. So I have a level of comfort with the city as well as the rural community. And then went to school here in Lee Summit. So I'm a local guy, graduated Lee Summit High School. Went to college, immediately I needed to be an educator. I was like always astounded, and I looked up to all of my teachers growing up. So I was like, I want to be a teacher. That is my end goal. I knew I was going to be. Went to college at Northwest Missouri State, had a degree in education, minor in coaching. I did teach for a little over a year, until some things were presented to me within education profession that I didn't like how that was going, and it's gotten worse since then. So we've seen teachers undervalued, underpaid, lack of support. So there was just a lot of things I didn't like about where it was going professionally. I loved working with kids. I loved the aspects of teaching, and so I investigated other avenues that I could have a lot of transferable skills with that. So my background in coaching and teaching led me to investigate physical therapy, and so it allowed me to transition a lot of those skill sets. I ended up getting accepted to. I applied to various schools. Went to school here in Kansas City at Rockhurst University. Obtained my doctorate in physical therapy. It was a great program, very great faculty to student ratio. Had great uh, classmates who I still have as good friends today. That some work in the area, some are out of state. But you maintain those relationships professionally because they see things that you don't, and so we stay good friends. After my degree, went to work at North Kansas City Hospital, where I worked for a brief period while I was in graduate school, and then investigated where does this career and field take me, and wanted to kind of branch out of my comfort zone. Went into home health, worked for Visiting Nurses Association here in Kansas City. Did that for a while. Decided it wasn't the best time management for me, and then I went back into the hospital systems with another hospital here locally, and then throughout all that experience, kind of found that this was not going where I expected it to be at that point in my life. And I said, well, I'm still fairly young. I'm in my early 30s. Let me branch out and try something. My wife and I were married in 2015. We've been together since 2008, and don't ask on the length of time there, because it was get off the pot time by 2015. So yeah, we got married in 2015. She has a great job, a great career in marketing, and then we had our daughter in 2019. And so like right at the start of COVID, she had her first birthday. And so it was kind of a interesting few years with a toddler at home during COVID. But it allowed me the time to think during COVID about, what is my career goal look like? What could I do for myself that would give me the happiness that I expected out of this profession? And it ended up being, ultimately, I always came back to, I just need to start my own office. And obviously there was some business things I had to pick up and learn along the way to get this going, and be the office that I think it could be. And I still don't think that it's quite there yet. I still think we've got a lot of room to grow and room to move along. And I do have, I hired office staff a few months back to help me a few days a week with some clerical, cleaning, and some of the office management type work. And she does a great job. And I wish I could have her every day of the week, but she's semi-retired, so we're going with what we can control there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I've been looking for another therapist here recently that wants to partner with me and wants to take that jump into something that's more devoted to the patient. So, and that's kind of leads me to where I'm at today. My background in teaching has really helped facilitate, I think, the quality that people receive here at the office. I have a certain level of comfort working with the general public, and I think there's therapists out there that don't have that level of comfort. Just the ability to have that interpersonal communication, the conversation, meet people in the middle where they're coming from, and communicate what you want to achieve in their terms, to allow for the most understanding. And that's kind of where the teaching meets the physical therapy. And a good physical therapist is a good teacher. And if we can't teach effectively, then people don't always understand what we're trying to, the why behind what we're trying to achieve. So.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, man. I mean, obviously, you and I met on a golf course, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, we both play the game, but I kind of relate it back to that, right? I mean, you kind of have that feel, right, when you're coming through and trying to hit the ball, right? but what you're feeling isn't always what you're doing, and having an expert there behind you to say, not quite like this, you feel like that, right? That makes perfect sense, and taking that time to actually get them to feel what they need to feel there to make them better. So that's
Absolutely.
awesome, man. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about your social media journey. I know you're obviously active, right? We've seen that on there, but tell me what the experience has been like for you and everything like that.
Yeah, so I knew pretty quickly that I was like, well, if I want to get my brand out there, my name out there, what services I can provide, um, I need to have more of a social presence. And it started with actually, I had my Instagram page before I had my Facebook page. And really, I think the target market that I am looking at is more Facebook active. A lot of my younger adults, I think a lot of younger folks don't see my office as a sports performance type of clinic, and I would definitely agree that it doesn't meet the same standards as these big industrial buildings with artificial turf laid on the floor. And yes, that looks great. It's very great. It's very good for return to sport, very game-like in terms of the environment. Um, and they usually have lots of toys, lots of really high-level performance-based toys. And so I think um, the target market on Instagram, I think we're getting more folks in my desired age bracket active on Instagram. So I have it connected now to where all my posts kind of interact, especially since the whole Meta merger with Facebook and Instagram. Everything can be easily posted either way. So I do like that aspect, but it wasn't available right away. I actually, for the longest time, I hadn't turned on just the smallest little button to click to turn on uh, uh,
The business suite.
cross posting. Yeah. So
Yeah,
in the summer I was very heavily involved. I was trying to get a post, at least 1 to 2 posts a week on my Instagram. Used a lot of free software for video development, splicing, cutting, adding the GIFs and all of the little fun little things you can add on the videos. And so I just kind of toyed with it, really. The very first thing I did was my website, and went through very inexpensive, obtained my domain name and very inexpensive HostGator account with WordPress. And I was like, this is all new to me. And it must have taken me like at least a couple of months to really develop the website and get it to where it's published and looks pretty. Had some professional photography done to kind of spruce it up a little bit. I started to learn things as I was investigating other companies. I was doing a lot of different research when it came to what are other clinics doing, what does this look like, and how can I adapt that and make it kind of my own. And so that took a long time, but I was able to be more social heavy in the summer because I wasn't quite as busy as a starting office. I didn't have that routine that I have now, which makes it a lot harder. I have to really like delegate time, set aside time to create a post, and so I like block off an hour, or I'll do it in the evening. I don't really plan my timing to post. And some places do that, is like I'll post at this time because I know maybe more of my viewership is on at between this hour and this hour. So I don't get too concerned about that. Not that I have a ton of, I have a reasonable amount of followers, but that's just, trying to be organic and following people, commenting, being interactive. And I think a lot of people just kind of want to see the likes and the follows, and they don't want to interact. And that's the whole purpose of it. Even the foundation of Facebook, the whole purpose of it was social interaction. It's not just to get clicks and likes, but we have like this need to be a click and like society. Like I got to get 1,000 likes or 1,000 follows or and I'd say one of my reels that I posted last summer was like one of my best ones, and it was only like 400 or 500. It was like a couple hundred views, and I was like, it's whatever. I'm not a social media influencer by any means, and I definitely won't ever consider myself that. But that's never been the goal. The goal is to just reach people. If they like the content, then I'll try to do more of that. Try to do a little bit of talking points, and for whatever reason, those didn't seem to be as effective. But a lot of the real short posts about having success stories, I think, has been the most effective. And so I try to do more of that now. Is if I post weekly, I'll try to pick a client. We'll take a short clip of what they're working on and do a success bit about that on the post, and that seems to respond pretty well. So
good points, man. You said so many good things there that I want to hit on.
Yeah,
so many. The first one being, it does take time. It's a huge time investment, as you found out. But that back end setup is where we find a lot of companies go really wrong. Right. So,
yeah,
it's not set up properly, or, if they're running ads, sometimes they've got their own credit or debit card on there. It's like,
sure,
guys, we
yeah,
need to throw the business on there. Okay. Don't put your own credit card on your,
right,
on your
right,
Meta Business Suite. Okay. Yeah, it takes time, and it's hard to know all those things, right? I mean, the amount of companies that are out there that have personal Facebook or Instagram pages for their company is insane. And there's so much more, I'm sure you've got your set up properly. As there's so much more that you can see and do when you're on that business side. So
absolutely.
man, I appreciate the honesty about the journey for sure. And I want to hit on the vanity metrics as well. A lot of people do get caught up in those likes, and it's
Yeah,
at the end of the day, who's liking it? Is it your potential customers, or is it mom, dad, sister, brother, friend from
exactly. Is it
college, that's never going to come in and spend a dime inside of Adjuvant?
exactly? Yeah,
But those people that don't like it, right? The people that see it, they watch the video, they see the post, maybe they don't like it, right? But they
yeah,
get you, you're in their head now. So when they're like, oh man, the elbow's hurting a little bit. I saw Chase
exactly. Yeah,
online there, and you're building that trust with them. So when they come in, they know that they're seeing Chase, right? Or whoever the physical therapy is. By the way, if you're a physical therapist looking for a job, hit up Chase. He is hiring. He's looking for a partner. Okay,
yeah.
so get together with him.
I gotta have the right team. And
Absolutely.
that is the ultimate goal. And I've always said that when I started my office, my 5-year plan was I do want to scale and have another office. And I'd like to have somebody that feels comfortable taking on more ownership of an office and being more of a manager type role as well. So it's going to be kind of a growth opportunity for somebody that comes on. And but you have to surround yourself with the people that are like-minded, that have the similar goals, not the same, but similar goals in mind, and want the best for the team as a whole. So that's how any business grows. Is you have to have people that want to be there, that are happy to be there, and in the end, that combines to create a good working atmosphere, a good situation, both for the employees as well as the business itself. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. All rowing in the same direction, looking to help the patients, man. That's awesome.
that's right.
Now, Chase, every superhero has a defining moment. What do you think yours is when it comes to your life and career?
Hmm. I would say it was well, when we had our daughter back in 2019. I kind of like really did you look at a newborn baby and you're like, man, I was like, now I'm responsible for you. Like I'm responsible for another human being. And so I kind of, when I think about it in depth, it kind of gets me even like teary eyed a little bit, because I care so much about my daughter, Quinn. She just turned 4 this week. So it was a big birthday week.
Happy birthday, Quinn. Shout
Yeah.
out. I love it.
Yeah. But no, knowing that you're responsible, you want to give your daughter, your child, everything that you can give them, and protect them and make them feel safe. And I think having something that makes me happy professionally leads into my personal life. And I think people really want to keep things separate. And I think if it's your job and you're not always very happy with your job, it bleeds into your personal life, whether you try or not. You kind of always, if I have bad days, those bleed into your personal life. you think about those things. I think the more people say that doesn't happen, that's just them lying to themselves, because we do sometimes really internalize feedback that people give us. And I work in an industry that's very service minded, and I don't always achieve the goals that the people really want for themselves. And even no matter how hard things are tried, and how much we modify and be proactive, but we don't always reach that end goal. But when we take that negative feedback, it does come home. And so my goal was to have something, because I knew where I was. I wasn't as happy at home as I could be. And my defining moment would be like, now I have my daughter, and I want to be as happy every day as I can with her. But it also starts with my professional life as well. So I want to make sure that I'm happy where I'm at, so I can be happy at home. And ever since I opened my office, things have taken a pretty good sized turn in terms of, I do have things I don't like about, insurance, and those new, and I think those are things that are not always in control. You can be a little bit, but it's not always in control. And so those are frustrations that I have with the system as a whole. But in terms of my office, what I provide here, and the individual care that people receive, I'm happier than I've ever been. And I think that was my defining moment, was knowing that I have somebody that I have to be responsible for and care for, not just my wife, but my daughter. And we're going to try to be happy, provide for the family. And I think this was the best way to do that. And the old, that there's that sports saying that you miss all the shots you don't take. And, being in my early 30s, I said, if there's no better time to take a risk now, and take a leap into something that's going to make me potentially happier, both personally, financially, professionally, and fulfill me more than going to that hospital, working for that corporate hospital system that has no idea I exist. I'm just a warm body in a building, and have to meet all their standards productively that are required of me. And if I don't, I have to leave and clock out. So my free time is spent doing things that I think are going to benefit my office, benefit me professionally and personally. So I don't have to clock out. so there's that. But that was my big defining moment, was when we had our daughter, and having to make that immediate decision that I have got to think about something different. And this was kind of building from that. So,
Man, I love that's such a good point. I mean, I experienced that same thing working for corporate myself before I joined with J29, which we look corporate. We're not. We're a mom and pop kind of boutique marketing agency off of the plaza. But yeah, in my corporate jobs, it was something that was talked about. It was like, leave it at the door, right? Like, if you're struggling at home, leave it at the door when you show up here. If you're struggling at work, you leave it at the door when you leave.
Yep.
And it's so crazy to me to think back on that. You're creating an environment, and obviously home is different, right? If you've got that environment at home that you have to leave when you show up to work, that's a little bit of a different story, right? But if you've got to take work and leave it at work because it's stressing you out that much, and it's something that you've got to talk about, there's no way that it doesn't bleed into the personal life, right? And my wife would be the first one to tell you, when I left, things changed a little bit inside my house, and I thought I was leaving it at the door. I thought consciously, I'm like, forget it. I'm not going to take that home. But just my overall demeanor and attitude was
exactly body language, demeanor. It's it all reflects on your job, your career, and the type of work you're doing. And my wife, not to go too much into her, is she has a background working for agency work that did primarily pharmaceutical advertising and marketing. Companies that spend multi-million dollars investing in medicines that cost them a fraction of a dime, that can be life-saving, that they're gouging people knowingly. And it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry, because they know they have something that can benefit society, and they're monetizing it. Whereas other countries don't value that quite as heavily. So, that's something that she had to fight with internally, was that she was knowingly marketing for companies
Mm,
that are doing a financial disservice to the overall health and wellness of the country. And yes, they value their product, but at the same time, there's an element of greed that has flourished in the pharmaceutical industry. And so, yeah, I mean, every job, every career has its ups and downs.
of course.
Um, but I think when we realize that we have something that makes us so unhappy that it bleeds into it it it, it creates a different level of attentiveness at home, a different demeanor at home. Those are things that just, I think, are not acceptable. I think we shouldn't let that happen. And if we're not doing things to help change that, then we're just hurting ourselves. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the kids will wake you up faster than anybody will, for sure. I'm with
Oh
you on
yeah.
that one. I'm with you on. I've got a 5-year-old myself, so I definitely get that. Now, Chase, every superhero has attributes, right? Superman's got the laser vision, right? The super strength. Hulk's got the big muscles, right? What are the attributes to you that you feel define a hero?
Oh, altruism, I think, is a big one. Being true to yourself, who you are, um, your own morals, your ethics. I think that leads into a lot of other attributes, like so altruism leads into responsibility, leads into honesty, and those are things that I think a lot of us lack in society as a whole. Not because we wanted that to happen, but because there's been a change in the way we are taught to see things. And so I think having altruism, being true to yourself, um, gosh,
Those are good ones. I mean, you went foundational there.
yeah,
So I
no,
think
no,
it builds off of that, right? If you're being true to yourself, I think you're right on the right track there. Go ahead.
no. I think we all have a sense of responsibility, and a responsible person, I think, can be as much of a hero. It's like, you see that $20 bill on the ground after somebody dropped it, just not taking it, picking it up and handing it to them, just that sense of doing right for others and doing right for yourself. And that's always given me a lot of internal joy. So I think that makes a good person, and a good person is a good hero. So, um, and that's probably the healthcare side of me, the compassion and the um, altruism, compassion. I mean, I could go on and on about
Yeah, I mean, you went from teacher to
pillars. Yeah.
teacher to healthcare, so I think that definitely says enough about your selflessness, right? I mean, it's very clear to I think probably anybody that knows you that you do kind of live that lifestyle. I didn't even know that you were a teacher before today, so I think it even says even more about you, right? That was the calling and that was the passion, and obviously the education system is what it is, and I agree with you that there needs to be some massive changes there, but that never left you. Even transferring into that field, it's very obvious with how you've set up your practice that you are a very caring and empathetic person, and putting people first. So appreciate that, man. Now, last
Thank you.
question here for you, Chase, and this is the one that's been kind of hanging everybody up on the last few episodes here. If you had to choose one superhero that relates best to you, who would that
Oh,
be? And give us a couple sentences why.
okay. That's a good one. So, I mean, it's different, like picking one that's my favorite and picking one that relates to me.
Right.
If I had to pick a favorite superhero, I have always been an Iron Man fan.
Okay.
Um, and maybe I could pick Iron Man not in the sense of his demeanor and attitude, but because he's ultimately trying to be selfless. I think we do a lot of things on a surface that can present us in a certain way, but ultimately trying to do good. And I think that Iron Man does that,
Yeah.
right?
Especially
So
after that defining moment there with the with the Humvee. I mean, that I think that was
exactly,
the Iron Man moment where he's like, "Oh man, I've gotta change what I'm doing here." So I think, yeah,
exactly.
it's a great one.
Realizing that what he was involved in, the way he was presenting himself. So I think he had a lot more uh, not personal conflict. He had a lot of internal conflict, and the fact that he went from this 180 of, yeah, I'm just going to peddle all these arms and I'm the rich kid, I'm the playboy, and then just kind of squashed and just turned all the way around and said, no, I'm going to create something that's going to help people. And I think that's what I would pick is I'm going to turn around what I'm doing, and I'm going to turn around and do what I think is right, not what I think is going to make me the most money, not financially driven. All of those things. I think finances can come when you're doing the right things and being a good person. And so obviously he had a lot more satisfaction out of the fact that he was Iron Man than anything he was doing when he was just Tony Stark. So
For sure. That's a great answer, man. That is a great answer. Well, Chase, thank you for coming on the show, man. You've been an awesome guest. How can people keep up with you? How can they get a hold of you? Where can they follow you at? Go ahead and put everything out there.
Yeah, so my website is www.adjuvantpt.com. My social, we have Facebook and Instagram. Both are at Adjuvant PT. So you can check me out on both Facebook and Instagram there.
Awesome. Yeah.
Also, yeah, my phone number, direct message, all of those things are a great way to just reach out and see, if it's something that you're interested in, giving something different a try. Then we're open for it. So
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you're out there looking for a physical therapist, maybe you're not getting the attention that you need, you want a little bit more one-on-one, or even if you just like Chase and you want Chase to be your physical therapist, definitely head over there at adjuvantpt.com, take down the phone number, schedule an appointment with them, follow them on their social channels. And Chase, man, thank you for being an awesome guest. You've been cool, man. It's been wonderful.
No, thank you for hearing me and asking some good questions.
Awesome. Everybody out there, have a good day.
Hey, are we still live? Hey guys, we're still live. Hey guys, this is Kevin Kwok, founder of J29 Creative Group. So who are we? We're a marketing agency here in Kansas City. We're all about a holistic approach to marketing that builds your brand and nurtures online community. But to be honest with you, you guys don't care.